Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of Hops Geek News. We are a podcast that discusses comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we have a beer of the week. Now, we're going to have a guest in the second half of the segment, Lance Lucero. He is a filmmaker, comic book creator, and he's going to come on and chat about some things with us. We're going to talk life, we're going to talk about his inspirations, what he's been doing, and his latest works of art. So, we will talk about our beer at that point because it's always better to chat beers with our wonderful guests. But I am Matt. With me is Lauren, as always. You can go ahead and find us by searching Hops Geek News on any podcasting platform. Then go ahead on any social media platform as well. Join the Facebook group, get in on the conversation. And if you really feel so inclined to support the show, go ahead, join patreon.com/hopsgeeknews, where we send you a nice comic book bundle, some stickers. We are going to go ahead and also we're going to be releasing an episode early. So tonight we are going to be sitting down with Derek Robertson, co-creator of The Boys. He's a fantastic, very well decorated comic book artist, and we're going to release that episode a week in advance for our Patreons. So get behind that. If you want to subscribe, go ahead. Everything goes back into the show. If you're new to the show, the format is we typically talk what we're drinking. We go into what we've messed up on the last week. We talk about what we have been reading and or watching, and then we get some news before our main topic. So that said, Lauren, what did we mess up on last week?
It's not really a mess up, but we've been talking about Bad Batch like it's over and it's still on. So there's still
It
another two
is.
episodes before that's over. It's a 16 episode season. I do think it's gotten better. In the beginning, it wasn't really holding my attention, but I do think it's gotten better. So I believe that's all we messed up on last week.
I turned it on at work the other day when I was doing a bunch of like stupid admin paperwork, and I started to watch it. I'm only like two episodes in. It's struggle with the Bad Batch for some reason. I'm just not really like invested in them, but I'm giving it a chance, trying to get into it. It is excellent television. I mean, there are parts that are really great. There are parts that aren't in the first season, so I'm trying to give it a chance. I know a lot of people are really into it, and then of course I love Star Wars, so I'm surprised I'm not.
Yeah, it's one of those, if you don't give it your full attention, I don't think you can appreciate it the same. So it's like
Yeah.
if you start to veer off and then it kind of loses you. But when I'm paying full attention, I genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. I'll probably have to do that. I mean, I have a long plane ride coming up here in a couple days where I'm going to be flying to Massachusetts, and so I'll probably download the episodes on Disney Plus and just watch it on the plane. I feel like that's a really good chance to dive in and get into it, and so I'll do that. But what have we been reading or watching lately? Have you been reading, watching anything good?
So I had posted a little bit ago. I found Quick Stops, the comics by Kevin Smith, just released, and I had found three and four. My comic book shop had one and two for me. I did read them. It's basically four little short stories that take place in between the movies. So it's a lot of fun. If you see it in your, shop, I definitely recommend grabbing it. There's a story about Randall and Brody. There's a few little different things, and it just kind of like one of them starts during the funeral of the guy who broke his neck, and they talk about
Oh
that.
man.
And yeah, so it right off the bat, it gets very vulgar with Jay saying things. What's his face? Ben Affleck's chasing Amy makes a cameo, and there's a whole episode about him. So yeah, a lot of fun. Check that out. Obviously, Mando. I finished a book called Beer Taste the Evolution in 50 Styles.
Ooh.
So I love, beer books. It was like a good little bit of history with also some beer education. And it just made me add a bunch of places in Europe that I want to visit to drink more beer. And the last thing I watched was Gotham Knights. So it's only two episodes in. I obviously started watching solely because of Misha Collins, and he's the
Oh
best thing about
Lord.
the show. I don't hate the show, but I do really feel like they are targeting a younger audience. It's targeting the kids. It feels like a CW show. uh, it does have like the end of the second episode, I was like, okay, there's doing a little twists. But Misha's in it, not a huge amount, but a decent amount that I will keep on keeping on solely for him.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna watch it. I've seen some reviews like Ken from the ODPH podcast. He was talking about it, how it's really not good, and he's someone who really tries his hardest as well. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a CW show before saying that it's a WB show. Does that make more sense?
it's the WB.
Because like I watched Smallville and I liked it. I watched Flash and I liked it
Well,
at the
it's just
beginning. I
like
watched, but
you got the Joker's daughter, you got people like that. It's like,
and she's a little too much. I don't know if she just needs time to grow on you, but like they're pushing the Joker's daughter thing too much. And like the Joker did not raise
yeah.
her,
First of all, like the
but they're
Joker's,
using
yeah,
that
I
to
don't know.
fuel her anger. But it's just, she
Daddy
was
wasn't
born in Arkham
there. Oh boy.
and
So
her
is
mom
Harley
and
Quinn her mom or somebody
no,
else?
Joker left her mom for Harley Quinn. So I almost feel like they're like name dropping.
They are. That's all that is. That's just named. All right.
But
What does he
Misha's
do
doing
now?
a great job. He's so good.
Well, it's
I
because
love
I
him.
mean, first of all, he's amazing. So I'm not diminishing what he can do, but
He's an
also
angel of the Lord.
it's not that hard to be the shining star in a pile
You
of
know what's
shit.
funny
But
though when I'm watching this because I've seen Harvey Dent portrayed,
Harvey,
animated and
Harvey, Harvey. Where's
I've seen him
Harvey?
portrayed in the night. I've seen multiple versions of Harvey Dent, and every single time I fall in love with him, and not in a I'm in
Were
love with
you
him,
in
but
love
in
with
a
Aaron Eckert?
here I always trust Harvey. I always trust
Well,
Harvey Dent.
he's Gotham's White Knight.
And I know that he's going to turn bad, yet I still trust him every single time. Even the cartoon version I trusted in The Long Halloween.
Oh
I was
man.
like, this is
Oh
a good
jeez.
guy. And I know what's going to happen.
We're worried about you.
They get me every time.
When good guys go bad.
I
Anyways,
got a type. And when you get to a certain season in Supernatural, you'll see that even more.
oh boy. Well, I will get there eventually. Did you watch anything else before we get into what I've watched?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, first things first, Ted Lasso season 2 is out, off and running. I have been caught up. Lauren is not. So my spoiler-free thoughts are this show continues to bring the emotional heat. It is so good. I I don't know how a show can be so good, so therapeutic, and just so genuine. It's everything they do. It's
Jason Sudeikis. He's an
and
angel of the Lord, too.
he is. And then just in this episode alone, it was just like, oh my God. Even with Roy Kent, they even got lessons with Roy. And I'm just like losing my, I don't know, man. It's so good. This
I
is
mean,
so sad.
Hercules?
Yes. You mean Huncules? It's so sad that this is like the final season because I don't want this to end ever. And it's just so
Better
rich
to
and
end it
pure.
nicely than to fuck it up.
I know. I know. It's so good. Apple TV. Look, folks, Apple TV is kind of where it's at as far as shows because I finished Shrinking like we've talked about, and that show is made kind of by the same creators. And God bless, if you just want to cry profusely for 30 minutes, you need a good therapeutic cry session. Go watch Ted Lasso. Go watch Shrinking, and you're just gonna feel so much better. You really
I don't know
will.
if I've cried during Ted Lasso.
I don't cry, but I cry internally. So on the inside, like outside, I'm stone faced, but internally, I'm sobbing. Like,
So did
like
you not cry actual tears during Wakanda Forever?
no, I played it cool. My son did.
No,
Me,
I was
I don't know how to
bawling.
process emotions. Okay, I
What
wasn't
about
loved
Clerks
enough.
3?
Look, Brian's our friend of the show, Brian O'Halloran. His
Our friend of
performance
the
did
show.
almost get me.
Our BFF.
Yes, he probably hates us, but
I ugly cried in that movie and I did not
I don't
expect it.
cry. I don't know how to process emotions. I don't know.
I don't
So
want to say what Brian's response to it because I told him I cried more in that in Endgame and I loved his response, but I don't want to say it on air because I want people to watch Clerks 3 if you haven't watched it.
go watch
But I
Clerks
should
3,
tell
then watch
you
our interview.
because you were with me when he said it, but it went over your head like Drax at the moment because you hadn't seen Clerks
Yeah, I
3. So
don't
I'm
even
gonna tell
remember
you
what you
after we're
said.
done recording.
Bingo. All right. The last thing that I watched was Mandalorian season 3, episode 3, and
So good.
God bless. God
I
bless.
love the
God
season so
bless.
far.
We have the cult of Mandos, and my only question is, how did Bo Katan get those 3 winged birds on her ship that is clearly too small for any of
Okay.
those?
Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Spoilers for Mando in 3, 2, 1. So when that thing, like, oh, there's always a bigger fish, I was like, well, now these baby
Oh, I was
dragons are just
thinking
gonna
it.
starve to death. And like, no, Bo-Katan's not gonna let that
I
happen.
was also thinking like Jurassic World as
Oh,
well
100%.
from
Yeah.
that sequence, but you're right. It was like there's always a bigger fish, as Qui-Gon said. And then that happened. And then Bo brings those back. And I'm like, how did you fit them on your ship? What?
Right.
But if that's where I'm drawing the line, then,
Maybe the ship is
whatever.
a TARDIS.
It was good, though. I mean, obviously, Grogu is going to go ahead and he's going to be trained as a Mandalorian. He gets
Right.
some action in on this, and I was
Whatever.
like, oh my god,
He's
I die of cuteness.
I saw an amazing TikTok where it was the thing from Saturday Night Live where he's dressed as a woman and he's like, "My son does not have ADHD. He just likes to jump a lot." And it's Grogu jumping over the mean guy who's John Favreau voices kid.
Yeah,
What
well, oh
what is
my
his
god,
name? The Not the
don't
armor.
pre is it pre Vizsla?
Oh, it might be. They called him something different in season one. It is something Vizsla.
I think it's pre Vizsla, and oh my god, it's every time Bo is just like your son. I'm like, oh my god, they are acknowledging this right now. I can't.
He says
And
I'm his ward.
we didn't even get to the part where we see who Grogu gets saved by, and it's none other than Ahmed
Okay.
Best.
So when that opened, I was like, I know this guy. I know this is important, but I don't know this guy. I
Right
did not
away.
know who that was, but
Yes.
I knew it was important because they gave you a moment to reflect.
It's Jar Jar Binks, the actor of Jar Jar Binks, who was pushed to the brink of suicide at a point by Star Wars fans.
Those
He's
Star Wars
back.
fans should be ashamed of
Star Wars,
themselves.
yes. He's back as a freaking Jedi. And he saves Grogu and he dual wields
Not a
lightsabers.
Sith Lord, but a Jedi.
And it's
To
just
make
like,
that clear.
oh my God. It was so in he was whipping that speeder around. He escapes on the ship, and I need to know what happens to him. Does he
And
live?
there's
Like,
theories that that was Jar Jar's ship
well,
because it was near Padme's and it looked like a
yeah.
senator type ship.
Well, like, how did I need to know how did they get separated? What happened?
Yeah, because what's going on right then, there's so many things. Like this is the moment where
It's the
Anakin's still
purge.
slaughtering younglings. So
Yeah.
like Padme's still pregnant. She hasn't, she's probably at this moment sneaking onto the
Oh
ship
my
to go to
God.
Mustafar.
Yes. And then just seeing these clone troopers, and it was I need all of the Order 66
Seeing the clone
content.
troopers is like it hits so different now. It's just so, especially because like I watched that and then I watched Bad Batch, and like in Bad Batch right now, I won't say too much because I know you haven't caught up, but like they're decommissioning the clone troopers in Bad Batch. Like any bad clone trooper
They
is
have no
is bad
value.
equipment. Right. So you're seeing these clone troopers who fought side by side with the Jedi. Obviously, their chip kicks in. Now they're murdering all these Jedi, including the
They
younglings.
have no
And then you're
control.
but these
Oh,
chips are clearly deteriorating or their personalities kicking in or something, and they're questioning orders and they're getting like sent off for it. So
I
it's just
know.
it's tragic on
God.
both sides.
It's the clones are that's the beauty of Star Wars, is that there's so much tragedy and beauty and just
Yeah.
this is why I love Star Wars, folks.
And I need
This
to read those
is
aftermath books. That's the next thing I'm reading because I keep hearing about the aftermath books and them
read
relating
them.
to what happened with Mando.
Yes, yes. So read the aftermath books if you haven't. It kind of bridges some gaps and talks about some things that you should
There's
check
three
in.
of
And
them.
I'm not gonna gush any longer. Let's get into some news. So first things first, as far as news goes, according to a Venom actor, I'm an actor. Spider-Man 2's video game will be released in September.
I was
Now,
confused at this because they were just advertising it as Spider-Man 2. I'm like, Spider-Man 2? What?
so it's a PlayStation
Yeah, I Googled
game.
it.
It's awesome. It's amazing. Some of the best video games. And then the last game introduced Miles Morales. And now, also, in addition to this, is the rumor is that they're also going to play into the multiverse. There has been rumors that they're going to introduce like the Spider-Verse realm into this video game. Count me in. I can't wait. If it comes out in September, you damn well best believe that I will be pre-ordering this and playing it as soon as I can. Speaking of video games, Jedi Survivor drops April 28th, which is the sequel to Fallen Order, and which you can get for like $5 on the PlayStation Network right now. It's such it is it's worth the 60, $70. It's such a good video game. It's got Cal Kestis, played by Cameron Moynihan, who we hope to see in live action. And this is 5 years in the future after the events of Fallen Order. So make sure you kind of get on that game because it's amazing. It truly is.
And when does it take place in the Star Wars universe?
It takes place in between episodes 3 and 4.
Okay.
Vader is Vader. He shows up in Fallen Order. You kind of get into a tussle. The purge has happened, all of that stuff. And so this kind of takes place in that era.
So he's a Jedi hiding, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a Padawan when the purge happened. He went into hiding, and that's kind of how things
So
picked up.
he's like Kanan Jarrus's age.
Yeah, actually, during Rebels, yeah, I would say that's about the same.
I really hope that we get flashbacks in Ahsoka of him or whenever, Ezra Bridger shows up because I just want Freddie Prinze Jr. to come on the
So
screen and play him.
the latest rumors behind Ahsoka is that Sabine Wren will be wielding Ezra Bridger's lightsaber, and Ezra Bridger is going to be all about the
Because
martial
he's
arts.
missing right now. Oh,
Well, yeah, he's missing. So my thing is Thrawn was like a martial arts expert, so they might have teamed up. He taught him some things, and now Sabine
oh,
has his lightsaber, which Sabine, if
which
you
is the coolest
remember,
lightsaber ever because it's also a blaster.
yeah. Oh, seeing all of this in live action and then the potential to see Freddie Prince if we get any sort of live
I would
action.
love to see him in
Dude,
live action. Give him a
I
ponytail. Let's go. A little man bun.
we may never get to see Star Wars on the big screen again, but if I continuously get stuff like this on the small screen, quote unquote, I'm good. Like, oh my
Well,
god.
and I've watched recent interviews with Freddie Prinze Jr. talking about like Dave Filoni and everything and like his, experience on Rebels. And I am loving hearing it. And he said like Dave like told him about like his Mandalorian story and how he wanted to do a story about Mandalorian. So that's amazing. But I have a quick side note and then we can go back into news. So when I was at Disneyland, I'm standing on a very crowded bus. My kids are sitting away from me with, the oldest is 19, and I'm holding the Ezra Bridger lightsaber that is Logan's. And the lightsaber keeps falling out, and I don't know how to put it back. And I'm standing holding the thing going back to the hotel after a very cold, wet, rainy day at Disneyland. And this random, like 8-year-old sitting in front of me, and he literally just pushes the lightsaber all the way in and it clicks. And he goes, I was like, thank you. He goes, I have the same lightsaber.
And you're just like,
I was like,
oh,
thank you so much because I didn't know how to make it stop falling out because it's a blaster too. So
yeah.
you have to like click it all the way in and then flip. It's a really cool lightsaber though.
I'm all about it. I am all about it.
It was just funny. So thank you to that random 8-year-old who definitely doesn't listen to our podcast.
Shout out
You
to
are
him. I
amazing.
hope you
Yes.
find this one day and you get the recognition you
If
so
you were on the
truly
bus
deserve.
during spring break 2023 and you push some random lady's lightsaber all the way in, I appreciate it.
Cheers. This beer that you won't be able to drink for like 13 years is for you.
Probably more than that. Yeah. He was
So
adorable.
Ash and Pikachu's last episode airs March 24th. Pokemon fans, you know this is coming to an end. If you're like me, you're going to check it out. However, this is not anything in the same, but Shazam. We all know Shazam came out last weekend. It hasn't been doing well in the box office. I liked it. A lot of people liked it. Well, there's been a lot on Twitter and Facebook and TikTok that's like, X, Y, and Z happened, and it came out to the Wrap had an article that was like, The Rock blocked any JSA members from appearing in Shazam, and then also The Rock wouldn't let Shazam be in his post-credit scene, which is why Superman was there. And Zachary Levi basically took to Instagram and Twitter and was confirmed this as such. And
Which is
yeah,
crazy.
the Rock just you have Black Adam and Shazam. Like, how do you not let them ever meet? And the fact that we're never going to get to see any more Shazam things probably for a long time sucks. And the Rock was being the Rock, and it sucks. As a DC fan, we can't ever have anything nice. It is so exhausting sometimes. It really is. And the discourse is so tiring. So David F. Sandberg, even himself, took to Twitter this week and was basically like, I can't wait to disconnect from the online discourse about superhero movies. I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm exhausted. I want to go back to horror movies. And us as a fan base, we need to stop this crap. Like, don't attack the actors. Don't attack the directors. If anything, like the studios are the problem. Shazam didn't get really good marketing, and then also like,
Big brother.
yeah, it's just I don't know. So we're all just ready for the Flash to hard reset everything. I'm gonna drop that at that. Otherwise, I will go on a 45-minute rant. And then my last bit of news is that Mobius, aka Owen Wilson, wow,
I really hope this is. Oh, Mobius. I thought it said Morbius. I was like, please don't let this be true. And then you said Owen Wilson. Okay. I
it was the
redact that
wow.
statement.
Yes,
Yeah.
Owen Wilson, Mobius, as you know, he is allegedly going to be in Deadpool 3. So it's looking like
Which
that
would make
Wolverine.
sense.
I mean, it's looking like Wolverine and Deadpool are going to take on the TVA, is what it's kind of sounding like at this point. Sign me up.
Sorry, Loki and Mobius. I'm team Wolvie all the way.
I feel like they might be in for themselves. Wolverine's not coming out alive, or whatever's going to happen with him. Deadpool is somehow going to get trapped in our universe. Sweet, but man, Owen Wilson meeting Deadpool. Oh, who would have thought? Who
That
would
would
have
be
thought?
amazing. Oh my god, it is so amazing. And
At
just
some
Wolverine
point,
in the background rolling his eyes.
it's wild.
You
It's
know what's going to
wild.
happen? This is going to be the end credit scene. It's going to be Deadpool and Mobius on a jet
Having a
ski.
sandwich,
No, on a wave runner jet ski, just off into the sunset.
apparently. But yeah, that's all the news I have. What do you have?
So Daredevil Born Again has begun filming. The
Yes.
directors of Everything Everywhere All at Once are working on the Star Wars show's Skeleton Crew.
Double yes. They are Oscar winning directors.
And my last piece of news is Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel has begun filming, which we talked in our first episode of the year about Ghostbusters coming out in like December. So I don't know if that's still going to happen with that set
No
date.
way.
We shall
It'll come out
see.
December of 2024, if anything. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I liked Ghostbusters Afterlife a lot.
And you didn't
It
cry
was
in, did you
so
cry in
good.
that one?
No, I don't cry.
All
Okay,
right,
I'm
you're like
broken.
Chandler Bing.
I'm broken
You are a shell of a human. How did you not cry in Ghostbusters Afterlife?
because I wasn't
Jeez and
loved enough
rice.
as a child. I don't know.
I used to not cry in movies. Now all these movies get me, man.
I just don't. Okay, it's a problem. And
That's all I got.
anyways, that's all we have for news. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will be back in just a second. We are going to be talking with Lance Lucero. We're going to talk about Bob, the non-union. I forgot what I was going to say. We will be back in just a second. We are going to talk with Lance Lucero, the creator of Bob, the non-union psychic. It's a fun supernatural comic book with a lot of comedy, a lot of action, and so we'll be back in just a moment. Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. As I said, we have a really great guest. Lance Lucero is here to join us. He is of Warehouse 9 Productions. We are going to talk about his comic book, Bob the Non-Union Psychic. And before we get there, of course, Lauren and I promised to chat about what our beers are. So first things first, I am drinking from Monkless Belgian Ales out of Bend, Oregon. It's called a Hazy Day in Brussels. It is a double dry hopped Belgian style triple ale. Comes in an eight.
Ooh, Belgian triple. You're going
Yeah,
hardcore.
it doesn't taste like it though. It does not. I'm on vacation until
The best
April
ones
5th now,
don't.
so yes, it does not. It's 8.6% surprisingly, and inspired by the grand place in the city of Brussels and its hazy days with a nod to the New England haze craze. This ale is brimming with a juicy tropical and citrus hop profile. Man, I promise I can read, folks. While delivering flavors of a classic Belgian triple, Belgian Pilsner malt fermented with Trappist yeast and double dry hopped on Citra, Eldorado, and Mandarina Bavaria. Yeah, out of Bend, Oregon. Wicked good. I like it. It doesn't taste like the 8.6. That could get pretty dangerous if you're drinking multiple, but I'm not, luckily. So, Lauren, what about you?
I also got a hazy with Citra and Mosaic hops brewed by Distill Brewing in Illinois. It's a double dry hopped hazy IPA, and I picked it because it's part of their Deadhead series. And well, the comic we're going to be talking about later in just a bit, it's got some dead people talking. We're talking about some dead people. So I got
We
lots of
are.
skeletons today. So, and it is a 2021 gold winner at GABF.
Ooh,
So it's pretty
fancy.
good. It's been in my fridge for a while. It was probably really good a few months ago, and I've just been sitting in it. It was one of those that was hiding in the back of the fridge, but it's
Makes
still
sense.
delicious. And yeah, I'm ready to enjoy this beer and talk some comics.
I am too. It's always a great time, especially when you talk to some really awesome people who do things that Lauren and I can only wish we had the ability to do. So, Lance, welcome to the show. We got connected, and it's been great getting to read the comic book story. And so we're going to talk about that. But first, we would love to know, like, introduce yourself. Welcome to the show. First time here. Introduce yourself. Tell the people who you are.
Hello, it's good to be here. I'm Lance Lucero, and I am Warehouse 9 Productions. What we do here is filmmaking, films shot on real film, not video, and comic book creation. So that's basically what the main gist of the production house is. And I'm the owner operator.
Nice. That's a lost art form. Nobody shoots on like real film reels anymore. That's quite the throwback. How difficult is that to do? Is it kind of difficult to do still with everything going to a more video digital age?
Not at all. It's a big misconception. Just because of the HD invasion, it's kind of put a crimp in the style of actual film, which has been around for 130 years. So the techniques are tried and true. I mean, it's no different than it was way back when. The technology is sound, and of course, it looks better, and it's true cinema. You know, video has its place. Video has its place, but cinematically, I don't believe it. So I'm sticking with what is tried and true.
Do you see film coming back in a way that like records are coming back?
I see it coming back. Yes, I think the oversaturation of the HD invasion has created a lot of problems, even industry wide. It's the quality is getting worse, and I think that with film, you have a mainstay of a standard. There's a quality there that's just already tuned in and dialed in. And plus it's true movie making, it's true filmmaking. So, you know, there are a lot of people out there calling themselves filmmakers that shoot video, never, ever shot a frame of film in their life. And unfortunately, us real filmmakers are lumped into that category now. And we're trying to say, no, we don't shoot video. We shoot real film. So that's the category you need to look at. Yes, it's visual motion, but they're two different formats. I believe it's going to come back. The Renaissance, I think, is going to happen because too many people are just shooting anything they can on HD. They pick up their phone. They're now a filmmaker. Not true.
Right.
They get their cheap DSLR camera from wherever. Now they're a filmmaker. No, you're not. I think the Renaissance is going to happen, and I think we're going to see some really cool stuff in the future.
Nice.
So
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to make the comment. I think it's really funny. Like, I never had a record player, but my daughter does. So it's like my parents have given my daughter their records, and it's fun to see that kind of stuff come back, and it's coming back for a reason. So it's kind of neat to see it all go full circle. Do you ever have issues with having to get film? Because I've heard like record companies are getting backlogged with all of a sudden having to make records again.
Not at all. I mean, the outlets, there used to be more outlets. Even here in Colorado, but it's on the upswing because we're going to get a processing center again. Scanning could be anywhere, but I have good scanning opportunities here in Colorado. And the film itself, I order it either from out East Coast, West Coast, doesn't matter, whoever has the best deal. And it's not hard to find. No, not at all. It's just you have to do your research. That's your palette. So you don't just throw up a camera and hit record. You say, okay, if I'm going to make a film, what is my palette? What's the canvas? What am I going to paint on? Your film stocks, you need to know, you need to understand. Your cameras, you need to know, you need to understand. It is a craft. So when you set out to make a film, you're going to pay attention to the details, and you're going to be extra proficient, because it's not just let the camera roll until the battery goes dead or you run out of space. Right. It is a craft. So the materials are not hard to find. The cameras from Super 8 to Double 8 to 16 to 35, they're all out there, and they're all designed to last a lifetime. There's no shelf life like all the electronics today.
Right. Everything new has a very short shelf life.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Oh my God. I just had to get my iPhone replaced this past weekend. It was like, it just all of a sudden wanted to stop charging. And I'm like, it's been 2 years. What are we doing? This stuff should be lasting longer.
That was like a joke in the Unstoppable Kimmy Schmidt? Like, a new iPhone came out today, but this is just going to sit, and it just falls to pieces like immediately.
Right.
But I think that's really cool. That was when I was, looking at your website, I was like, this is interesting, because I never really thought about it. I was just, you listen to because I'm not in the industry at all. But you listen to things and you're like, oh yeah, the first couple seasons of Supernatural on film, and then they switched to digital, and like that was that. It never sounded like it was an option. It was just, this is what we're doing now. But I'm sure for bigger studios too, like you said, you can't let the camera keep rolling. So I'm sure there's a cost efficiency as well that goes into it.
Absolutely. And it's a big misconception about what's cheaper. Oh, film's so expensive. Oh, it costs so much. And it's like, well, when you really look at the components of a camera, even digital, you need to have storage versus film. You need to have that place to store that information. You need to have, and this is where it gets a little scary. The zeros and ones, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Files get corrupt. Anything can erase a drive. But a film negative can last a lifetime if you take care of it. I have negatives that go back 25 years plus, and when you scan them, they look like they were shot yesterday. So I have an archive of my material. My material isn't going to disappear overnight. It's not going to disappear. I always have that celluloid to go back to. Whereas the HD, no, they don't have that. But now they're saying, well, we'll scan it to film and archive it. And then they call it a film. And it's like, well, no, that's a cheat. You're scanning it to film. You shot it on HD. They're two different components.
Ah, interesting.
Absolutely. So even when a person says that when they're shooting their video, well, we shot it on black and white. No, you didn't shoot it on black and white. You shot it in color and you put a filter or desaturated it in post to make it look black and white. Versus
filter, right?
Yeah, I bought the black and white film stock. I know how to photograph black and white film. I'm a photographer. Therefore, I shot black and white film. It's true. So, we live in the age where anybody can invent their own truths. And if a handful of people agree with it, it's a thing.
True.
That's right.
Yeah.
So how long have you actually been, you mentioned you got film from like 25 years ago. How long have you been shooting your own films into this kind of world and industry?
Since the early 90s. The idea is I practiced on video. And in the old days, I'm dating myself now, before the intranets, before podcasts, we had public access television.
Yes.
So when you were in public access, you were a star, especially in your hometown, because you're getting showcased. That's video. Then the idea is, look, if I want to be a real filmmaker, I need to shoot a film because that's what they're looking for. They need to know if you know color temperature. They need to know if you can do sync sound. They need to know if you can hold a production value budget. Sure. So I said, that's what I need to do. That's what everybody's doing. And it's the craft. So that's what I exercised on. Did a short film, which helped me do a feature film called Hunting for Fish. That's locked up in a distributor's hands right now. It's waiting for a place to land in this oversaturated market of HD. I have a real film, a feature film ready to go. But now, because distributors don't even know the difference, it's getting tough. I mean, I've submitted to distributors my films, even my latest ones, and they're like, well, if it's on film, how do we see it? I'm like, dude, it's scanned on a film file. You're going to be able to see it. I'm like, and these are major distributors. And I'm like, okay, this is bad that they're even asking me this.
Right.
So they were confused. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be a difficult process distribution wise, but I do believe the renaissance is happening. I think people want to go back to making a film. Oh, I want it to look like this movie that I grew up and loved because it's on film. You can't fake it till you make it. And we live in a time where it's faking it till you make it. And I'm not all about that. Maybe I'm a little old school. Maybe I'm a little hard-headed, but I think if there's a pure craft, you exercise that pure craft. You study it, you execute. And yes, you marry the two together. Obviously, I scan my films to 4K and I manipulate it digitally after that. But the point is the photography is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's tried and true.
Well, it's like if you look at WandaVision, they actually used the techniques from the 50s and 60s for those first couple episodes. So everyone was like, oh, how did you do this? We literally used pulleys and did exactly what they did back then to give it like that authentic feel for old school technology, so to speak. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But before we go too off the rails, we definitely want to come back around to this, the comic book. So we usually start with all of our comic book creators. What is your geek origin story? So how did you, basically, what was the first step that led you to creating your own comic book?
Going back again, cinematically, it was all about movie making. It was about filmmaking. So Bob Non-Union Psychic started off as a screenplay. Oh. And we're going back to about 2000 after I had finished my feature, and I was writing more screenplays, trying to get them on the table at certain studios and agencies, which happened. So Bob landed on a few tables. I was young. I'm an unknown. I'm unrepresented. I'm a risk factor. So basically, I was killed with a lot of kindness. The script is great, but we can't do it. We don't know you. You're not in our system. So we have to pass. The script is great. Oh, but it's going to be way too expensive to produce. we're going to have to pass. So I kept hearing that over and over again and thinking, okay, well, this is the dream project. So going back to, I think it was 2015, 2014, I hooked up with an old screenwriting friend of mine, Adam Voley, who was the co-writer and editor on Bob. And he was the comic book guy. I said, hey, look, let's get this, let's make something out of this, the screenplay. Let's condense it into a book zero and just tell kind of an origin story. Let's see what we can do with this. And he was game, and we were off and running.
Nice. I will say one of the things I really liked about it that I didn't expect, like, it's funny. So it's got a great story, but it's also really funny. Like, there was a couple times I laughed aloud. I don't want to say why, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's going to go out there and check it out. Go ahead.
Well, I think that coming from the screenplay world and kind of primarily capitalizing on comedy, I guess, in a lot of my projects, that's one thing we needed to translate to the comic book, kind of like a sitcom. So I based the structure off like a 30-minute sitcom and said, okay, let's script it as such and try to execute it in comic book format to see how that flies. So, the dialogue is important. And what we want with Bob is that you're going to sit down and you're going to read this book. You're going to read it. You're just not going to blow through it. How some comic books, you just blow through the 22 pages and it's like, is that it? No, with Bob, it's going to be literary. You're going to read it and you're going to stop and look at the art. So hopefully people take time and enjoy the book. So, that's old school. That's what we were thinking. The idea was to get this to print. The idea was to get a book in people's hands. And that's what happens with ASAP. You get a hardcover book, you get a prestige book or a paperback. You flip through the pages, you read it over and over again. If it's on your shelf, you grab it and you look at a couple pictures. Just like old school comic books that you'd have stacked on your table or your desk. You just grab them and just, okay, I'm just going to flip and look at this wonderful art.
Yeah, definitely done that.
So that's what we were after, to create a high quality graphic novel that can rival any of the big studios out there, but independently. It looks good. It's written well. It's entertaining. That's what we were after. We set the bar extremely high, and we didn't settle till we got the finished product the way we wanted it.
And
so
oh, go ahead, Lauren.
Go ahead, Matt. I've been asking a bunch of questions.
No, I was just going to say you're 100% right. The way that you can kind of marry the two, right? It's a lot of times I find myself when reading a comic book, it's, I'm kind of lost in the art. Don't really worry about the words, or vice versa. You're like, oh, I'm really interested in the dialogue, the art. But what this does really well is it marries the two. There's so much popping off you on the page, but at the same time, you want to know what's happening. Like visually reading, oh, this is what's happening. It's just all one big happy like marriage, I would say. And that's something that, again, some comic books just like kind of forget what they do. They get lost in capturing one side or the other. But with you guys, you really did a great job doing hand in hand.
The best comic books have a good balance. Yeah. I love the artwork. I thought it was very unique too. It wasn't like necessarily what you expect when you would open up your, typical cliche comic book. But that's what I've been loved about all these interviews we've had with indie comic book creators, is the art is so different because there's so many different forms to portray these stories. So how was that working, doing the art and the dialogue going back and forth? How did that work? Was there a lot of back and forth, or was the art just exactly kind of what you imagined from the get-go?
It was like Christmas and your birthday every time you saw new art.
Well, that's good.
So the script was intact. Absolutely. And in screenplay format, and we kind of developed our own template so that nobody would get lost when they referred to the script, with proper page numbers, proper panel numbers, but it was still scripted like a screenplay generally would be scripted. And that's also just to help with pacing. But now you can get really, really more elaborate with the narrative. You can put descriptive action in there. You can say, okay, this is what we would like to see. Now, it's all in written paper. As a filmmaker, I know what I'm going to shoot, what it's going to look like, how I'm going to photograph it. But when it came to finding an artist, it was kind of funny. We solicited, geez, it's been several years ago now, 2014 on I think it was digital webbing. Is that even still around?
That's something I haven't heard in a long time.
Right. So, Adam put the ad out saying we have X amount of pages. We're looking for artists, cover artists, letterers. We're willing to pay X amount. Shout us out. And we were overwhelmed with the artists from all over the planet. I mean, the stuff we were seeing was absolutely amazing. I mean, out of Singapore, out of Spain, Argentina, Mexico, Brazil. I will have to say I was surprised the Americans didn't step up, because, internationally, they got it. And we had to narrow it down from all these wonderful artists. So we narrowed it down to Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, top 3. And the idea was as well, it is a comedy with horror aspects and historical aspects, but how far do we want to go photoreal? We had a guy, and we thought, nah, that's a little too serious. And then when we were honing in on Francisco Resendez out of Mexico, he was an animator. He went to animation school. So cinematically, he had something that was unique, plus it translated very well in sequential art. It was like, this looks cinematic. He is doing cinematic work, and I think he gets it. So we decided to go with that little more of a cartoony style, but when it gets violent, it gets very violent and it's poignant. Yeah. And we thought that might be a good edge. So we did want that glossy kind of animated Disney look, but when it gets dark, we want to go to that place. Mm-hmm. And I think it worked out very well. And, Francisco was a great find. He's our guy. He ended up saying, can I try the covers? All right, try covers. Okay, you got the job. Well, can I try coloring? Okay, you got the job. So he was the all-in-one package. It was like, wow. And, as an artist, the eye-opener to me was, okay, being the writer, producer, director, editor, you're in complete control. Mm-hmm. Now I have to hand my material over to an artist and sit back and go, okay, how is this going to work out? This really is an eye-opener, because it's like, all right, let the artist do their job, let them breathe. And he did, and we were surprised. I was like, great, this guy is nailing it. This is easy. Is this how comic books go? This isn't easy. This is happening. Yeah, I was like, this is amazing. We just let him spread his wings. Hey, man, this is the basic idea we have for a character. What do you think? He would give us 3 interpretations, and then we would talk about it and go with this. He did an amazing job. He's our guy, man. This guy is amazing. So that's how it came about. And even as an artist, obviously one of the main villains in the book is the Hux, who I've not publicly displayed yet, but you know what he looks like. That's not what he looked like when I wrote it on the script. He doesn't look that way. And I was wondering why he wasn't following. Me and Adam were talking behind the scenes. I'm like, well, why isn't he doing it like this? And Adam knew comic book artists better than I. And he said he doesn't want to. And I was like, oh, okay. What do you mean he doesn't want to? All right, never mind.
What?
He's the artist.
Hold on. Like, what? So what do you mean he doesn't want to? Like, why isn't he telling us this then?
I think he spoke with his art, and I was like, it works. Let's go with it. Why debate it? He created something new. I'm going to go with it. So as an example, when I say, okay, now you need to invent a wig monster, I just back off. Let him do a wig monster. If I say, do your version of a Wendigo, he just does it. All right, that works. So you let your artist breathe, like you let your performers breathe. You let your actors and actresses breathe. You let them work their talent. Same in the comic book world. You give it to an artist, you let them do their thing, and you're going to be better off. I think that's a true collaboration.
Right. It's just you got to let go of a little bit of your baby and know that it's in good hands.
Yep.
So we've talked a lot about, you said it's a horror, it's a comedy, it's historical. So can you, because I don't want to spoil anything that you don't want spoiled, tell us a little bit about Bob and how he came about and what from the story you're willing to tell people who haven't read the comic to get them to read the comic.
Well, Bob, non-union psychic, non-union, it's a metaphor. It could have been non-club. It could have been non-anything. Is about just saying, screw the gatekeepers, do your own thing. You can spend a lifetime chasing down a studio, an agent, anyone to try and get your work out there. And the screenplay and the book is about that. You don't need to wait around to do what you want to do. Just do it. If you wait for that acceptance, if you wait to be accepted somewhere, I mean, you can grow old. So there's no point in that. So Bob is basically that character. Obviously, it's Bob, non-union psychic, and the psychic union is a big deal in the book. But the psychic union is a metaphor for anything. Once again, it's that agency, it's that studio, it's that publisher. It's like, well, do you really need them? If you can create good work, why do you have to deal with them? So Bob is a renegade psychic professional hairstylist. He has a profession. He cuts
I love
hair.
that was his real profession too when it first started out. Because when I watched the preview, I was like, why does he have scissors? And I was like, oh, okay.
And the idea
that was a
is
fun little twist.
Yeah, and the idea is like he has to have a profession. I didn't want to
pull
pay
the bills.
Right. And I didn't want to pull any cheats. He can't be a super lawyer. He can't be a billionaire playboy. He can't be, he doesn't have a fortress of solitude or a bat cave. He's got his barbershop that he runs, owns, and operates. And that's his bread and butter. He's talented. He just happens to have a natural sense of energy around him. He can see more, he can feel more, and it's somewhat of a hindrance to him, but it's in his blood. It goes back as far as he can remember in his family bloodline, 1,000 years. So he's the standout guy that has the talent. Interfamily, families can encourage us in good ways and in bad ways. We all know this. So you have his great grandfather that wants him to get into the psychic union. Look, do something more with your life. You can be a rock star. But he's like, do I want to be a rock star? Not really. I cut hair. The argument is, but you have a natural talent to help people. Well, I am helping people. I'm making them feel good about themselves when they go out into the world. No, you're missing the point. You can help the world by using your psychic talents. So you get that really good conflict between family obligation and actually true talent. So I think everybody can identify with this. Doesn't matter what profession you're in. You strive to get to a certain place. But once again, if you allow the gatekeepers to hold you back, you're only holding yourself back. So that's what Bob's about. Plus, it's an adventure. It's fun. It's designed to make you laugh. I'm glad you said you laughed. You read it, you laugh. Hopefully you can identify with things. This is the fun part about it.
Yeah, it's
nice.
It really is just like fun. Plain out. And I'm watching Supernatural for the first time. And so when I started to read this and I see the characters Bob, he's fighting, supernatural things. I was like, holy crap, it's like I'm reading a Supernatural comic, but
they were definitely Bob gave me Sam vibes because it was kind of like he was hesitant to kind of get into the family business, so to speak. Exactly. It took me years to get him to watch Supernatural. I don't know if you're familiar with the show at all, but he just started it and he very quickly got into it. So it's hilarious to hear him say that.
Everything's a Supernatural reference now.
He made fun of me for 2 years for it, and now he's doing it on his own. So speaking of Supernatural, not the show, but in general, have you always been into kind of the supernatural stories? Have those always entertained you?
I think so. I think there's an idea of energy that surrounds us. I think I've always been into the humanistic aspect of karma and good energy, bad energy. Who a psychic vampire is when you walk into a room. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to throw up your psychic shield and say, this person is not going to affect me. Moving on. It's something that it's a character study. It's a humanistic study that I think is fun. And of course, it can take itself to other heights in the way of the real psychic world. So I think that's the fun part of it. And it does marry reality with fantasy. I think a lot of people, once again, can identify it. I mean, if you look into the book, certain characters, you can see their aura around them, whether it's blue or red. Are they warm or are they cold? Do they have a vibe that Bob doesn't like, or does he have a vibe that he's ready to latch onto? So that's part of the art. Those are those secret nuggets we have hid all throughout the book.
Nice. Now, I also know that there is a spin-off comic coming to this. Do you need to read Bob first, or is it going to be something that's totally on its own?
It would help to read Bob first. So we have this initial arc, book 0, 1, and 2. We still kick ourselves for doing the 0 sometimes. It's very confusing, this origin thing.
But so many comic books have done it.
Yeah, we did it as an experiment. And then when it was taken off digitally, we said, okay, let's do a book 1, and then let's do a book 2, and let's complete a story arc. And since then, yes, Adam and I, we have written three more episodes. I think it's good to go in a batch of 3, plus a spin-off that I did of the Maya Theater Troupe. So in the book, if you remember the origins of Gramps and his troupe, that would be the comic book spin-off of Bob. We're going to go back like 50,
it's
60
like a prequel
years.
Almost. Okay.
Somewhat, I want to do paranormal, the Beatles. These guys are rock stars, jerks, but they get the job done. They specialize in drinks and food and fashion. It was a different era, a different time. So that's the spinoff. But now what I'm doing is I'm doing an actual film spinoff of the graphic novel. So I'm in post-production now on Coiffier Extraordinaire, Waiting for Legros, which is going to be the official film spin-off of Bob Non-Union Psychic. So I've been working on this thing for about 3 years. So cool. Because how do you bring 17th century France to Colorado? Well,
yeah.
we have miniatures, we have paper cutouts, we have puppets, we have real wigs, real fashion, we have everything you can imagine, all old school film techniques mixed with digital effects to make a new one-reeler, 12-minute short based off the Bob book. So basically, I'm doing my own fan film, my own IP. I'm not taking somebody else's IP and putting a spin on it. This is my film based on my material. And what better way to have a 12-minute commercial for your graphic novel?
That's a really good idea.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's kind of like the Kevin Smith method in a way, where it's like, hey, you know what? You got to take a chance on yourself sometimes. And if nobody else is going to do it, then hey, you know what? Get the job done yourself. Show that you don't need these big. A lot of people kind of box themselves in thinking, oh, in order to do X, Y, and Z, I need these big companies, these big corporations, especially when it comes to things like filmmaking and comic books. But that's not the case. Like you're showing it right here with Bob. You can go ahead and make this stuff yourself and make it a success, and then also do what you want without
do it your way.
Yeah, without somebody breathing down your neck about it.
Absolutely. That's independence.
Yeah.
Where can people going to be able to find the film? Where will they be able to once it does come out?
Once we finish it, the plan is to tie it in with the book 100%. So working with Paul at ASAP Anyone World, we're gonna design a showcase for the film itself, i.e., buy a Bob book, you get a free pass for a private screening that you can watch anytime you want.
So cool. Yeah.
So this will help us because it won't disqualify me from the film festival circuit or hinder distribution if that comes around, because it's not an official release and I'm not selling tickets to this thing. You buy a book, you get a private screening, you get a pass to watch the movie.
People do that all the time. You get private screenings and press screenings, all that kind of stuff all the time. So that makes a lot of sense.
Right. So that's how I'm gonna plan on doing it. Plus, we're gonna hit the festival circuit like we've been the last since 2019, even during a pandemic. With my last one-reelers, it's all about hitting that scene. It's all about getting it in front of a live audience. You're in front of a live audience. Once again, I push the book. Hey, you want more? Here's the book. When I'm on stage, This is it. You want more? Here's a book, and then you'll get your pass to see it indefinitely.
Right. So and cool. Nowadays, when we as the audience like something, we want more. That's why everything's a universe now.
Yeah,
that's true. And what kind of film circuits do you have coming up on the docket for where people can maybe find you?
I haven't submitted this film yet because it's not done. But like I'm waiting on pending festival dates for my other two films, The Last Resort, the Western, and The Unmentionables. So I won't even get those notifications probably for another couple of months. But as those come in, I announce them. I'm like, hey, we're in Austin, or we're going to be in San Antonio, or we're going to be in New Jersey or Las Vegas. So usually as that happens, I announce it. And then, we see who shows up. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to push film. I think we have an edge. The moment I say it's a film shot on film, I think people perk up and they think, oh, really? That really happens? Yes.
It's like
Come
that.
and see it.
People love old school stuff, so that to them, it's like,
It's
this is
probably
old school. People do
vintage
this.
by
Yeah.
now.
To a lot of that crowd, it's like, oh, let's go check out this vintage style. But it's like, hey, whatever gets them in the seats, and then they can kind of see that this is
Yeah,
still
my
a thing. It never went
daughter called
anywhere.
something of mine vintage, and I'm like, it's not vintage, Keely. She's like, well, it's 20 years old. It's vintage. I'm like, but yeah, whatever. If it's cool to do, then and it is cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah. So you were saying you'll post it. So Matt will put the links in the episode. So if you're wherever you're listening to this, the links will be in the bio of this episode. But why don't you go ahead and say where you post these announcements, any social media you have or website or anything like that?
Well, the go-to website is warehouse9pro.com. You go there, you're going to see all the latest information, all the latest news, where we're going to be at, where we're going to showcase, where the book's available. That's the hub that kicks you over to ASAP Any One World, where you can go to the stores and purchase whatever you want from the books to merchandise to now it's going to be a tie-in to the film. I usually am around Instagram and Twitter. Something poignant comes up, I will post and say, look, here I am. This is what I'm doing. And look for us if we're in your town. That's just the way of the world right now. So I'm on top of it when things happen. So I'm just now, I think you are now getting the initial gist of the movie, the film. I'm starting to push now, because I expect it to be done in about 2 weeks. I have it's in the hands of the musical composer, where we're going to have a real harpsichord, real instruments. It's just not beats pulled off the internet and smashed together. The film is going to be like everything I do, organic. Although this is heavily stacked digitally. When I say stacked, that means if I shot green screen, which I hope I never do again, I hate it. But I shot a miniature set with people in front of a green screen, and then I integrate the miniature set into that shot because it's still film on film. You know how it is. Like when you've seen old films and they started to do CGI, it just stuck out like a sore thumb. It was like, oh gosh, that's terrible. So the idea is if you film the assets, the special effect assets, and you combine them together, it's film on film. You're going to get the same grain structure. It's going to look great. Nothing's going to stand out. So this Bob film, Coiffier, is every single shot's a special effect shot, whether it has a puppet in it, a paper cutout, a miniature, costumes. I mean, this is the biggest thing we've done yet, and it's been a very difficult but rewarding at this time, because I think, hey, people are going to be blown away when they see it. This spinoff, they're going to go, "What the heck is this?" And it's based off a real guy. The guy existed. Look him up. Legros de Rumigny. He was a hairdresser in the French court. He existed. So
that's so awesome.
I'm bringing him to life.
Heck yeah.
So that I didn't realize. I thought the historical aspect was having to do with the necklace, the medallion.
No, Legros was a real guy, and
interesting.
He died mysteriously when Marie Antoinette came to town. Supposedly, he was trampled to death.
Oof.
That's why we invented this whole persona of, well, maybe he was a paranormal adventurer and something else was happening.
I love that so much.
We took a historical element and we added fantasy to it.
I love that so much. That's really incredible. I mean, I know you even go to Comic-Cons once in a while. I saw that you've been to MegaCon a couple of years ago. Lauren is going this year. So hopefully we can catch you on the Comic-Con circuit to help, screen some films and catch some of these amazing films. And I hope to, once you announce, maybe hopefully get to one of these, because it sounds awesome. I'm fully immersed in this book, and I personally want more. I know that. And so hopefully everybody listening, you as well. Definitely pick this up. Lance, as we get ready to wrap up, what final thoughts? Do you have anything that you really want people to know about you, the book, or anything within Warehouse 9 realm?
Yeah, I mean, we're available. We're showcasing, film production, comic book creation. So it's all about independence and retaining your ownership in your IP, but still getting it out there into the world. One thing being, don't forget about the physical aspect of art. Okay. We have digital, yes, up the yin yang, and it does what it needs to do. But to have and support indie, try for that physical aspect of your media, because I mean, you're gonna appreciate it more, I think.
Absolutely.
But bottom line, yeah, check Bob out. I think it's relatable to a lot of people. I think it's fun, and we worked really hard on it. Just not to cheat an audience, but to give them a high dollar piece of art and entertainment. And you can't sell your audience short. Although, you may not necessarily give them what they need, you're going to entertain them because maybe they don't expect what you're going to give them. And if you can do that, make a person laugh, that's all I need to hear. I made somebody laugh. There you go.
Nice.
Absolutely. And I mean, I am 100% with you. Nothing beats physical media. I love to feel the, just books, comic books in my hand, read it with my own eyes versus a screen, because we spend so much time on screens as it is, that I'm a big proponent of physical comic books. So I know we have our hands on the digital. I'm probably going to pick up my hands on the physical copy. Lauren, what final thoughts do you have real quick?
I think I really said them all. I mean, yeah, obviously I love the different spins on supernatural stuff, and the fact that it was historically based information as well. I did not know that, and I absolutely love that. We had another indie comic book creator on here a while ago that he had kind of the same kind of thing. It was a story about the slums of New York, and he took a real person that they didn't know exactly what happened to her, and he it's like fan fiction of historical characters. I think it's really cool. And it's always fun when you do that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend this comic book. If you don't want to invest the money in the hard, because I know Matt and I almost seem like we are the minority in wanting the actual physical copy, you can get the digital one for only $3. So I mean, $3 isn't much to invest in a comic, and if you like it, then you can always go back. Oh my God, it's half of a tall coffee at Starbucks.
It's less than a coffee, and it supports some really great creators to do some really amazing things. Lance, I just want to say thank you for joining us. It's been great. I can't wait to see more, especially see some of these films come out and check them out. I know we will be for sure. And for anybody else listening, do the same. Check this out. Whether it's you're supporting this one, you're supporting your local creator, do it. And that's how we love to see things made, right? There's so many things out there these days. Support these local smaller creators. Support everybody. Let's make
support small breweries and small creators.
Yes,
absolutely. They're the backbone of the economy, so let's do it.
Exactly. And of course, obviously, we still love Marvel and Star Wars. We're not going to be totally hypocritical, but yes, still,
at the same time,
I might be a little bit. I think I'm going to be a little bit. I'll say it. It's time for something new. We've had the same stuff for the last 40, 50 years. It's time for something new.
I'll agree there. I'm ready for something new, and it's getting something new and fresh is exciting. And so let's support people who do that. Yes, it's all balance. Lance, thank you again. Everybody, we will be back next week with another great show. Until next time, cheers, my friends.
Thank you. Thank you very much.